Ken, let's talk about your new book, No Address. This is a little bit different for you.
It was, for two reasons. One is fiction. I don't do a lot of fiction. I've done maybe 8 or 9 fiction books over the course of my career. But more than that, it's just such a tough subject. I mean, homelessness, we look at that in our world today and say, what in the world can we possibly do? I don't know about you, but it stirs up a bunch of emotions in me. We live in Nashville, Tennessee. You drive down on the corner and hear some people begging for money on the corner. Some of our parks were literally taken over by tent communities, that sort of thing, drugs and alcohol and needles and all kinds of other things. Sometimes I would get sad when I would see those things. Sometimes I would get mad. And I'd say, doggone it, somebody needs to do something. Somebody ought to do something. And guess what the Lord said to me?
Do it.
Yeah, no, he said, Ken, you be somebody. Okay, well, what am I going to do, Terry? I'm a writer. I don't have enough money to help all those homeless people, but this book is a result of that. It's telling the story from both sides, from the community side of saying, okay, how are we going to deal with all this that's going on in our communities? Homelessness is a big issue, not just in Nashville, but around everywhere, around the country, around the world. But the other part, from a Christian standpoint, what do I do with that in light of the fact that Jesus said, as you do it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. And as you have not done it unto the least of these, you have not done it unto me. So I began to ponder that, and about that time, these guys came to Nashville, and they said, would you get together with us? We're doing a tour of homeless encampments around the country.
I mean, so you were thinking about it before the book.
Yeah, oh yeah, because everywhere you look, it just either infuriates you or makes you sad or grieves you, something. So these guys came to town, and they were doing a documentary, and they said, would you get together with us and let us tell you our heart, and maybe you might want to jump in with us. And so I met with them over in Green Hills here in Nashville, and at a restaurant there, and before we even were done with the lunch, I said, man, I'm in. They had just had a basic script. They had the characters in mind. There are 5 lead characters in this book. And part of the point of it is that homelessness can happen to anyone. I mean, so many Americans nowadays just live, on the edge, one paycheck away from big-time trouble, or a calamity, or a car wreck, or an illness, and they're in trouble financially, and many times out in the streets. So the characters in here are everyday kind of people. There's a young girl by the name of Lauren who just gets out of high school, and she's out on the streets. Her foster parents don't want anything to do with her anymore. They're not getting paid anymore from the government, so she had nowhere to go, and she's out on the streets. A couple of military people, one man and then a woman who was in Iraq.
It's sad.
And a girl came through her checkpoint, and she'd seen this little girl come through her checkpoint for almost a year, and this one day she came through and she was wearing an IED under her clothing, and the person in our story didn't know it, and just blew up a lot of the Marines there in Iraq at that checkpoint. So when she came back, she was a mess. And she, guilt and shame and grief. She came from a military family. How could you let this happen? So she ends up on the streets doing drugs and all the rest of that. So these are very real stories. But what do we do as Christians about this homelessness thing? So part of the good news about this story, I met with a guy by the name of Dr. Robert Marbut. Dr. Robert Marbut was I guess we call him the czar now, the homelessness czar, or whatever, the drug czar, whatever. He was that for the Donald Trump administration and also the Joseph Biden administration. And I said, Dr. Marbut, I go to a great church. My wife and I, we've worked here in Nashville under the bridge with the Bridge Ministry, feeding hungry people, helping the ministry at the Bridge Ministry, just been doing a great job for 20 years. We're not making a difference. I go to a great church, compassionate people, want to help. What can we do? He gave me 3 things, Terry, that as Christians we can do. Number 1, he said, support those people who are doing it and already doing it well. Like the Salvation Army, for example, has been, since William Booth, they've been feeding and helping people, helping alcoholics and addictions and other things. So the Salvation Army does a good job. There are lots of others as well. City Gate Ministries around the country, they do marvelous work. The second thing he said, though, when you want to help them, you can help them financially and that sort of thing, but don't just help them on Christmas and Thanksgiving, because I would do that. I would get feeling real spiritual, so I'd go down to the city mission here in Nashville. Yeah, and that's good. That's good. But guess what? They need help on March 3rd. They need help on September 22nd. They need help on every day of the year. So he said, Ken, don't just help on those days. Go when they really need you during these other times. The third thing he told me, though, really shook me. He said, don't just put a Band-Aid on a situation. Don't make it easy for that homeless person to continue living on the streets. You want to give them some money? I had a friend who used to have dollar bills on his dashboard. He would just pass out dollar bills every time he'd come up to a traffic light here in Nashville, giving out money to people on the streets. He says, that's not going to help. All you're doing when you do that is you're perpetuating the cycle. You're allowing them to stay out of a situation where they're going to get help, treatment. 70% of the people who are in homeless situations now are dealing with some sort of mental illness, drug addiction, alcoholism. They're not going to get well, but just by picking them up off that street and putting them into a hotel someplace. They need to get into a situation where, like the Salvation Army, helps them get free from their drugs, helps them get free from their addictions, and get a whole new attitude based on the Scripture, based on the love of God, and that God says that you matter, that you have value, that you're important. So that's the story we tried to tell in No Address. The movie came out here this year, and I guess it's doing pretty well. I can't keep up with all those kind of things, but it's kind of been fun to be part of it.